So here I am in Fallout 4, and this is a suitcase I would like to pick open. You might have seen this minigame in previous Bethesda games. I think Skyrim has almost the identical minigame like Fallout 4 has it. And I think it might have been in Oblivion, but I don't remember that. So you have two basic controls. You can try to move the lock, open it, by pressing your movement keys. As you can see, it has some give right now, because the position is not too far away from where it should be. See? And you can move your mouse, which I'm doing right now, and it moves the lockpick in a 180-degree angle. Now, to be successful at the minigame, you have to find the correct spot, and then the lock will open as you use your movement keys. You can either brute force try it, and now I see I just broke the lockpick. So let's try this again. This is the start of the game, so I only have one lockpick, so I have to reload again. Okay, here we go again. Okay, now you can brute force it, just keep trying until you find the right spot. And as you can see, if you keep pressing it too often or too long, it just breaks. Or you can try to listen for it. You can hear there's a dead spot in here where there's almost no sound. You know, it gives some, but it's not completely. It needs to have a 90-degree angle, then it will open. So let's keep going. It's getting better. Now keep going in that direction. And almost a bit further. And we're through.
Yes.
Okay, now let's examine what happened here. What makes this minigame, I think, so interesting is that, first off, it's a relatable object. You have a lock. Everybody knows on a rudimentary level how a lock works. You put a key in and you turn it and it opens something. And what this minigame, I think, does so great is that it uses the 3D object, which means you're interacting with the object itself. And the object gives you information that you as a player can interpret and then use to win again. In this case, I would say you have 3 different indications. You can move your lockpick and you hear different sounds. And my theory is, I'm not sure if it's actually true, I never looked at the game code at that point. When it gets quieter, you're getting close to a spot where it's going to open for you. Then the next feedback is, as you move the lock, you can see whether it gives in and at which point it stops giving in. That tells you if you're getting closer or if you're getting further away from the ideal spot. So the player directly interacts with the object, and that's the gameplay. The object feeds information to the player, and the player interprets the information, and then uses that information to manipulate the object. So I'm here in a cave on Microtech, and I found this rock. I'm aiming at the rock, and I start the laser. Now here's the problem with the minigame. Everything happens on the HUD, and at no point does the rock matter for the actual minigame. If you compare it to the previous minigame in Fallout 4, it doesn't actually transmit any information to me as a player that is helpful or informs me to how to play the minigame. Everything happens on the HUD over here. The information about the rock is that stuff. At no point I have to examine the actual rock to know something about the rock. I don't have to look at the 3D model, not for nothing. And the only interaction I have with the rock is mouse wheel up and mouse wheel down. I think that's the core issue with this minigame. The rock can be replaced by any other object. Even that whole minigame could be replaced by... it could be a hacking minigame. It could be replaced as another minigame. It would totally functionally work as a different game. That shows if it's that interchangeable to something else, then it's a really mining minigame. And I think that's the core issue with the thing. I've drawn a set of pictures to illustrate the concepts I talked about. Okay, on the right side we have what I feel should represent the minigame in Fallout 4. Okay, you have the player on one side and you have the object on the other side. And the object sends audio and visual cues to the player, and then the player interprets those cues and makes decisions on how to win the game. So directly engage with the object. And here's how I feel on the left side, how mining is currently in Star Citizen. You have the player on one side, object on the other side. And there's no direct interaction between the object and the player. There's an intermediary minigame. It's like a wall of abstraction in the center. So the object doesn't even matter because all information from the object that you need to win the game is presented to you in the HUD. And it would function without the object even being present. You could just code a minigame, so you could just take the multi-tool, just point it into thin air and have the minigame appear. And it would still work in the sense that you can still play it without the object even being there, because you don't need any information from the object. And I've also taken a picture from the Fallout 4 lockpick minigame, and I made a somewhat satirical take on it, how it would look like in Star Citizen right now with the design methodology behind the mining minigame. So you can see it's a screenshot of the lockpick minigame, and had a bit of fun with it. Like it called it Cyberg interface, cool sci-fi line, cool sci-fi angles, and the game would directly spell out to you where you have to move the thing to win the game. So how can we make it better or more interesting? So I had this idea. Let me try it for a moment. Let me get my pencil right. Okay, let's say this is our rock. Okay. And there is our mining tool or mining laser. Now, when the rock is spawned, it should have one particular point in the 3 dimensions inside the rock that is randomly determined on creation. So let's say that point is somewhere in the rock. Let's take a nice color. Let's take this blue over here. Let's say this point is over here. Now, this is 2-dimensional, but imagine it's in 3D. Now, as a player uses the mining tool on the rock, he would basically fire the laser, and he would increase the laser power. So he would, let's take another color for that. Now he shoots the laser at the rock, and he's not aiming close to that point. So he shoots at the laser, at the rock. And the game should then give the player visual feedback, what happens. That nothing is successful happening because the rock doesn't get broken. So maybe the rock color doesn't change much. Then as a player starts poking the laser into different points of the rock, the closer he gets to this point, the more rock reacts to it, which means if you increase the laser power, there could be some discoloration on the rock, changing the color and the area where you're hitting. That should give you visual but vague cues on how to proceed. And basically you're probing the rock with a stick, and if you get to the point where you're supposed to get to, then the mining process will go really fast. And the point here being that the faster the player finds the point, the faster he will be over, and the less energy will be spent from the mining tool, and then he would win the game. And I think that would actually make the mining game more interesting, because then you have the loop of where's the picture? Because then you have the loop of the player directly interacting with the object, and the object telling the player what he's doing, if he's doing wrong, or if he is doing right. So this should conclude the video, and I hope it was entertaining, and thanks for watching.